Jill, it's so fun to have you on the podcast.
I am excited to be here and to talk retail, real estate, all the things.
Right.
Great.
Well, and you personify. I mean, you are the Mall of America.
There is a whole team that is Mall of America, but I am fortunate enough to be the spokesperson and to really be able to represent the brand, which I absolutely love.
And you've spent a couple of years at the Mall of America.
A couple of years. You're very kind. Actually just celebrated 28, believe it or not, 28 years at one location.
What year did the mall open?
1990, August 11th, 1992. So I started in the fall right after the 5th birthday.
Wow.
So it was still a young property, and I've seen a lot over the decades that I've been there. But it's been so fun, but yet it's went so fast because there's just always change. There's always something happening. We're always working on the next season, the next year, and all the different people that we've met and the brands that we've worked with and the activations that we've deployed. Like, it's so much fun to bring joy to millions of people every year. So it gets addicting, and being able to stay there and do it year after year has been so much fun.
I love that so much. Where were you when the Mall of America opened?
In college.
Were you?
Actually, no, I would have been in high school. So, because I graduated high school in 93.
Okay.
And then I went to St. Cloud State University for my undergrad in marketing, of course. And actually found my love for event marketing through the American Marketing Association. It was one of the groups that I was involved in at SCSU. Absolutely loved it. Found lifetime friends. I actually was just on a vacation in Tennessee a couple weeks ago with that group of friends from college. So it's great to be able to stay connected with people that have similar interests, and we have a lot of fun memories together. But that's really where I sparked my interest for true marketing and what I wanted to do when I grew up.
What about that kind of got you interested?
I think it was about, I'm a people pleaser, and I love coordinating things, and my family still laughs at me because I love to host. I love to just be that party planner that brings people together. It's just something that's in my DNA. So I found that love early on, and I knew that I was very detail oriented, almost a perfectionist to fault, which actually I struggled with that when I was young in my career with being a perfectionist. I had to learn that 80% was good enough, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself and your team crazy or your family crazy. But I really fell in love with being able to coordinate events and bring happiness to people. And being able to have that experience in college, and then looking at my career path, I was looking for internships, and I figured, what is the best place close by that I could host and do event marketing? And it was Mall of America. And I gave them a call. They had event internships with our events department. It was a very small team. And I got the chance to do that my last semester of school, and I got credit for it, which was great because I had to check that box, and just fell in love. And literally in the first week working with the event manager, who works with us now, her name's Chris, and she showed me the ropes early on, where it was just knowing that anything is possible. We actually had Shania Twain at the mall the first week that I was there.
Wow.
She performed up on the South Bridge above Lego.
Okay.
She had this huge video screen. She performed live, and I'm just like, this is so cool. Like, This is not a C-level celebrity. Like, this is the big thing. And at the same night, we were opening the NASCAR Silicon Motor Speedway. If you remember that tenant, it was an attraction where you had the car simulators.
Oh gosh.
So we had like Dale Earnhardt Jr., and we had all these major drivers, and I'm like, okay, the juxtaposition of a country music icon and a NASCAR driver, and like they're in the same building, and we're running back and forth doing these events, and I'm like, I could do this for a living. So I fell in love right out of the gate, and just had an awesome opportunity with the internship, and timing worked out perfect. As soon as I finished school at St. Cloud State, a position open full time. I didn't even need to interview. It was just like, do you want to stay with us? Do you love this? I'm like, yes, I want to do this for my job. This is great. And have been there ever since. So yeah, that was I started in 97, got the official position in 98, and never turned back.
Wow. That is, so you really are the Mall of America.
I live and breathe the mall every single day. Yeah, it's my home away from home.
It's really incredible what that is known for around the world, really, and how you've kept it relevant for all these years. I mean, I'm shocked that you go there and you still, can't believe all of the people that are there. It's unbelievable.
The secret is keeping it fresh.
Yeah.
You cannot become stagnant on what we're delivering to the guests. And, as much as some people get frustrated because we're moving things around, their favorite stores might be coming and going faster than they want them to. But, based on the brand and how they're innovating and based on their lease agreements with us, we're constantly looking to either have them remodeled to keep things fresh, or we're changing them out because we're either moving them to a different location because we have something else coming in that place, or we're looking for new brands to come in, because when we keep it fresh, it gives you as a consumer the excitement and the curiosity of like, what's happening at the mall, what's new, what am I missing? And so it's great to be able to work for a property and ownership group that loves that constant change. And I thrive off of change. I love looking at what's next. And just because we've done it once, like, how can we do it different or do it better, just to keep it exciting and interesting for the guests. Because we want that sense of discovery so that every visit's different. Like when we are creating events or looking with different brands, we want to create the experience for that 10th visit. We don't want it for just that next visit you're there. We want you to come back with your girlfriends. We want you to come back with your family, with your spouse, and be able to have a different experience each time you come. And based on all the different facets and the mixed uses that we have from retail, dining, entertainment, and attractions, you can create so many different itineraries, so it is different every time you come back.
Well, your excitement, after being involved in something for so long, is clearly shines through, and it's clear that helps you kind of get that same excitement in the things that you produce. Where do you get your inspiration? There's just so much.
Mm-hmm. Everywhere.
Really?
Literally everywhere. And I really love to look outside the industry that we operate in every day. We look at the retail industry, entertainment industry, what's happening in pop culture for entertainment. But it's like, what is the travel industry doing? How are people reacting to what happens in the airports or with mass transit? Or, what's happening in the medical industry? How are consumers adopting technology? And how are we creating more convenience with digital devices? Or how are people using AR or VR? And really just learning from multiple industries of how consumers are adapting and adopting new technologies, or the way that innovation is changing the way that we touch different brands. And also just learning from individuals, what they're doing, watching things on social media, just what consumers are gravitating towards, because we always want to be one step ahead. Consumers are going to have expectations of what they're going to experience when they come to the mall, and we want to try to get ahead of that game. So when you look at just even the change in our retail mix, we're seeing so many digital brands come to brick and mortar, and it's so interesting to see the shift, because 5 years ago when we were in the pandemic and we didn't know, are consumers just going to shift to online shopping? Like, is this it? Is this what's going to happen? Because everything's shut down and we have to, but we're human, and everybody came back. They want that interaction. They want the socialization of being in person. But it also propelled brands to think differently of what does success look like, because you can only build so much of a relationship online. You can, capture data, you can understand behaviors to a certain extent, but you can't build a relationship until you have that physical interaction and really immerse consumers in the overall brand. So you want to have that consistency from the digital channels to the in-person channels, but it's so fun to see these brands coming online. Like, so you look at Addicted. They opened about a year ago at the mall. They started on social media, and they realized they had such a strong following. So let's try the brick and mortar space. Let's develop that relationship. Their traffic has been bonkers since they opened. There's always lines in that store. It's fantastic. All the stores adjacent to and the co-tenancy with Addicted are like, what are they doing? Like, they haven't done any traditional marketing. They don't have to. They built the relationship online first and then delivered this immersive brand experience in the brick and mortar space. Brilliant.
Okay,
It's great.
I feel like I should know what Addicted.
It's for the Gen Z audience, even Gen Alpha. So it's definitely a younger demographic. Okay. Not to say that you're not youthful.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate
but
that.
It's definitely it's definitely a younger generation, and it's very new. This was within the last year, but we just opened Every Jewels. Same thing. It was a sister group, or two sisters that came together through TikTok. They had these great jewelry options. They just opened a store. Again, like huge lines upon opening, and they didn't do any traditional marketing because they had that connection with followers on social media. So we're seeing this change and this shift. Granted, we don't know how long these trends are going to last long, but in the moment, let's take advantage of the opportunity and bring those brands to consumers and really have fun with it, because it just adds a different layer of energy and vibe. And that's what we want to be, a destination where consumers are going to hope to expect. Like, if there's going to be something new and exciting, it's going to be at MOA.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think brands use the Mall of America as an advertising tool for themselves and kind of just to get exposure. With all of what are the numbers? What are the numbers of visitors?
Big numbers. We have big numbers. But really quick, before I jump in that, like you talk about measuring success. You're in the industry. It was always sales per square foot.
Yeah.
That's always the metric that people or the brands would look at. Now, in addition to that, is the exposure. It is a billboard that these brands can have within our Mecca destination. So when you look at numbers, 32 million people a year, 32 million. So that's, on any given day, we are the third largest city in Minnesota, because we have about 100,000 people a day, which is crazy. But we're 5.5 million square feet. So you spread people across that big map, like you've got a lot of space to move, because we're getting excited. We're getting ramped up for the holiday season, and on Black Friday alone, we have about 250,000 people that come through our doors, which is so much fun. We love it, because that's what we live for, is that Super Bowl day for retail. But the numbers are fantastic. And I mean, it's not only what we're able to do at Mall of America. We recognize we're a Minnesota asset, or a regional asset. We're a destination for the U.S. and around the world. And so when people come to Minnesota, they're not only spending money at Mall of America, but they're spending money in area restaurants, with the arts, the entertainment, the pro sports teams, the collegiate sport teams. Like, we know that the power of drawing people in, shopping is the number one leisure activity for travelers, but it's so important for us to also work with the partners in the community, knowing that we want people to stay longer, enjoy Minnesota. We have so much to offer with the 4 seasons, that when we can package our destination with so many other assets, it's really powerful, because for every dollar spent at Mall of America, 2 additional dollars are spent in our marketplace. So we have over a $3 billion economic impact for the state of Minnesota on every given year. So it is, we don't take that lightly. We know that we're a powerhouse, but we really appreciate and support our partners across the marketplace.
So I want to talk about partnerships. I remember first going to the grand opening, and we all had to wear decorative sneakers.
Sequins and sneakers.
Yes.
Yes.
And boy, the talk in the industry was this: there's no way this is going to succeed. I mean, it's just crazy that here we are that much farther in the future, and it's still such a big success. I mean, it's really, there were so many naysayers.
There were a lot of naysayers.
And how have the partnerships, I would think that you spend a lot of time with all different kinds of partnerships in the community, in the world, in the retail, with your ownership, trying to figure out how to make the mall relevant. How important are the partnerships that you have forged?
Partnerships are so important, and we work with so many different groups outside the mall, and I think it's really important for those relationships. They're long-term. They're not short-term transactions. I'm a big advocate of looking at how we can find a win-win together, and there might not be an opportunity in the given moment to work together with some different organizations or businesses or brands, but there's something down the road. And so whenever we get a no, even if it's from a tenant brand, it just means not right now. Like, the right leadership's not, or the decision makers aren't in place, timing's not right, location's not right. So it just depends on timing, and that goes along with any partner within the marketplace. But I would say we work the closest with our Bloomington, the Convention and Visitors Bureaus. So Bloomington, Minnesota Traveler and Tourism, Meet Minneapolis, Explore Minnesota Tourism, and Visit St. Paul. Those groups are really important for us to collaborate with when we're looking at the tourism sector, because when I talked about 32 million visitors, 60% of those visitors are local. So within 150 miles is how we define a local visitor. So 40% are tourists. So it is really important for us to have that balance, and that's what gives us a really consistent traffic grid across the the 12 months of the year is that when the locals are up north and joins the summertime sun, we have a ton of families that travel to Minnesota for their family vacations. So we'll get a lot of families from Wisconsin and North and South Dakota and Iowa, Nebraska. Actually, Illinois is one of our top markets. We get 1 million visitors from Chicago alone. And you know why?
No
sales tax.
I was going to say
no sales tax on clothing and shoes.
Yeah.
Huge driver for the Illinois market. But it's great to have that mix. And so the Convention and Visitors Bureaus are huge partners with us. The city of Bloomington, I mean, we couldn't do what we've been able to accomplish without their support from the very, very beginning. The visionaries of creating something that hadn't been done before and believing in it. So they have been a long-term partner from the city to the port to the police department. Everybody, they're great partners. And I'd also say the sports teams are a huge connector for our audience. Think about the generational connection that sports deliver, right? You can have a grandfather and a granddaughter. You can have a mother and a son. You can experiencing sports together for generations is so important. And we have that same connection because we reach so many different generations. Plus, there's a lot of great history at Mall of America with sports. We are the Metropolitan Stadium where the Vikings, the Twins played.
For sure.
And where the North Stars played. It's just, there's a lot of history. We still have home plate in Nickelodeon Universe in front of the rock bottom plunge. We have the 50-yard line marked off in the middle of the park and the longest home run by Harmon Killebrew by the log chute. So I
did not know that.
Yeah, so we have a lot of fun, which it was actually the 60th or 65th anniversary of the Beatles concerts. They had one concert that they performed in Minnesota ever in 1965, so it would have been 60 years. And so they, the stage was actually located really close to where the south entrance of the park by Lego, that's where the stage was, where the Beatles played. And we just did a podcast with some of the guys that worked with the Beatles when they were in town, and I looked up the ticket price for general admission for the Beatles was $3.50.
Isn't that crazy?
And the upgraded was $5.50. Okay, it's crazy how times have changed.
Right.
But the history connected to our building and all the things that are happening. So I mentioned the CVBs, the sports partners, but also just the business community. It's really important to just have great alignment with what's happening, the different industries, the support. We host a lot of events. It's not even just from an entertainment perspective, but a lot of corporations bring their events. We have the 2 connected hotels. So with Radisson Blu and JW, they have great spaces for groups to come and conferences to be hosted. So there's so many great connections. And that's what I love most about my position is I get to work with so many different people in so many different positions across organizations, not only in this marketplace, but across the country.
That's fascinating. What an exciting job. But you're good at it, clearly. Let's talk about retail. You've seen a lot of retailers come and go. The mall has done a really good job of tenanting. Some big players have come and gone, little players, lots of decisions on that front. I know you're not in charge of the leasing necessarily, but you, I'm sure, have a very big...
Oh, they're used to me sending ideas constantly.
Okay, perfect.
We all do throughout the organization.
Yeah, you can send those to me too. But what I'm fascinated by is what makes a retailer successful. And are there some examples that you can think of that just really blow you away as far as how they continue to talk to their consumer and stay relevant?
I would say there's been so many that have been successful, and I love the stories of the small businesses that get the chance to get the exposure at Mall of America, just right next to all the big brands. Our ownership, they were entrepreneurs, and so it's very important to us to not only celebrate the big brands, but also help the smaller entrepreneurs get that launching pad, the visibility at Mall of America to the world. So I love when we can really work with the small businesses to give them that platform and to give them resources. We have a whole internal team that can help for everything from social media to helping design their store, to helping bring resources to construct their store, to helping with marketing plans. And so I'd say the successful retailers are those that want to collaborate. They want to listen. They want to understand that we have expertise in this marketplace, things that work and that they don't work, but it's really leaning to telling stories and leveraging PR and having that balance of earned, owned, and paid media. We're always going to advise on what works well in this marketplace. We're going to help them as much as we can, but we have over 500 brands to help advertise, and we just don't have the budgets to help each one of them do individual campaigns. So when we're doing our advertising, we're clustering brands together based on our messaging and doing the best we can to differentiate Mall of America compared to other shopping centers, other destinations. But for them, it's to really understand, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you connect with the right audience in the right time, right out of the gate? Get your, especially if it's an attraction, get the right pricing model in place, understand your market, understand your competition. So spending time up front with those brands and really helping them strategize so out of the gate they can hit the ground running, versus getting behind the first 6 months and then having to try to dig out of that. Because as we know, like with social media, right out of the gate, there's going to be a lot of conversation, whether they've done well or they haven't, and then they either build on that momentum or they have to retool and then rebuild. And so working with groups right out of the gate is really important to educate from both sides. We want to learn what's worked in other markets, but oftentimes if they're just rolling out, we're one of the first, if not the first brick and mortar store they're rolling out. So a lot of times they're learning through that process, but it's holding hands and collaborating and learning together, but to try to hit it well right out of the gate, so that we can help them be successful, because their success is our success.
That is well said, but boy, that's a lot. It takes a lot to be a successful retailer. Mm-hmm. You have experienced all kinds of different things over the years, recessions and COVID and, just the change of what happened with Camp Snoopy, mm-hmm. I mean, just all kinds of changes have gone. Talk to me about some of the strategies that you have employed to change with some of the bigger mm-hmm. Community influences, or for lack of a better word.
Yeah, there's been a lot of hurdles along 30 plus years of existence. I would say the biggest thing I've learned as a leader is change is inevitable, but the one thing that you can control is how you deal with change. So being a leader and making sure that you're constantly giving your team hope and positivity through times of change, and not taking your foot off the gas. I think in those times of recession, we've really, really well. We've been very strong throughout the recession because we understand how we need to pivot, how we need to change our messaging, how to be empathetic with consumers and the places that they are in. Even now, when you look at the economic challenges, knowing that people still want to lean into traditions and making sure things are important for their families. But it's making sure that you're not tone deaf to what's happening in the world around you, and making sure your messaging is on track. Doing a little research and testing out different messaging strategies is also important, so that you...
How do you do that?
Well, it's just floating things out there, maybe doing focus groups, doing some online surveys, just testing where people are at. You take more of the macro trends and understand what's happening across the globe or even across the nation, but then you have to really regionalize it and see where people are at in the space that are already your fans, and trying to figure out what that looks like. But there's been so many different types of challenges, whether that is economic downturns, if it's health pandemics. That was one that was interesting for us because it was one crisis that we weren't alone. A lot of times if we have a crisis specifically for our property, we're identifying it, we're dealing with it, we're going through the crisis management steps. But with that one, it was like, okay, everybody is in this together and no one knows what's happening tomorrow. So we have to just lock arms and figure this out. And it was a time for us to open up the dialogue with our competition in ways that we never did before, is really collaborating across shopping centers and attractions, both locally and nationally, to say, like, what are we going to do? What does this look like? And because everybody was dealing with things in different states at different times and different parameters, and even us in Minnesota, we were under the same parameters for Nickelodeon Universe as a bowling alley was. I mean, just apples and oranges, but it was challenging to navigate, but you just took one step at a time and you wanted to get closer, because as soon as we closed, our goal was, how are we going to reopen? It wasn't how long are we going to be closed. It was just, how do we prepare to reopen? And giving our team, like I said, hope, keeping it positive, and that's not doom and gloom. Like, we've got this. We can get through anything, and anything is possible. So it's just being optimistic and knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we've just always learned to keep our foot on the pedal and collaborating with others and learning together.
Speaking of collaborating and being a part of the community, I mean, you host so many charitable events at the Mall of America, and I think that really is endearing. And talk to me about some of those and what kind of impact the mall's been able to have on the community because of that.
I appreciate you bringing that up because it's really important because we lead with our hearts. And again, going back to our ownership, they're very philanthropic, so it's important for us to give back to the community. And we don't always have a checkbook to write the big check to everybody that puts their hand out, but what we can do is lead with action. We can deliver an amazing experience through our asset at Mall of America and hosting events, building awareness, helping raise funds, and just doing good. I'm a huge believer in doing good will help the company do well. It builds those relationships. It also creates loyalty within the marketplace because everybody seems to have a passion for different purposes, different direction, whether it's a charity, if it's an organization, a nonprofit. There's typically connections across the community. And so to be able to help them have a platform to host events and to do different fundraising drives, whether it's a radio-a-thon or a telethon or walk. A lot of people like to come to the mall in the winter for walks because it's nice and warm inside, although we don't have heat, central heat, so it warms up once we get the body heat. So that's a fun fact.
What?
Yeah, we don't have any central heat in Mall of America. So the vestibules and individual stores have heat, but not the common area. So it's based on the solar energy and body heat. And so, yeah, it's very innovative and from an energy perspective.
Wow.
But yeah, so we do a lot of walks in the winter. People love that. But we recognize that we work with hundreds of nonprofits every single year and give back. We average about $12,000 a day of what it ends up equating to. But we also developed recently our own community foundation, and we realized that we can leverage our brand and the power of our visibility for other organizations. So right now, we're focused on education across Minnesota. So we work with Way to Grow and Big Brothers Big Sisters. So they help us with different initiatives throughout the year, but the funds that we raise through our foundation gets redistributed through those organizations. And it's been a great success. And we started hosting a new Teachers Appreciation event every spring for teachers that can come from across the state. We open up Nickelodeon Universe for these teachers and their families just to come and have fun. And we also distribute Nickelodeon passes to each one of the teachers so that they can have those for their students for a reward program, whether it's for achievements, it's for attendance, it's participation, whatever that might be. And so now we've created a new tradition. And so twice a year we distribute passes to the teachers to hand out to their kids to just help motivate and inspire them to do good in their classrooms. So there's so many things. We could do a whole conversation on community involvement, but it's really, really important to us and our team members. It's important for all of our teams to be able to volunteer and help out and do good within the community. And so it just brings a lot of joy to us that we know that we can leverage our property and what we do every single day to those organizations that really need the support.
Wow. That's incredible. Entertainment is having a moment. I feel like, a lot of the concepts that we're working with, looking for space, you've always had a very large entertainment component, but how is that changing and how are you embracing the desire for people to have all kinds of different experiences and keeping those fresh, I guess?
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
It is an interesting landscape because it's drastically changed in the years that I have been there. When I started, it was all the pop stars. We had Britney Spears and Pink and NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. Like that was a huge craze in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's changed. Like we went through a whole stage of like HGTV, the DIY, the talent that was on those shows, and then we had a lot of authors for a while, and still a lot of live entertainment. But yes, the entertainment world has changed tremendously, and obviously the immersion of influencers and content creators and these, I call them self-proclaimed celebrities, they'll pop up and they'll either be in our stores at the mall and they'll call us and say, hey, we have so-and-so coming, and expect a couple hundred people, and then all of a sudden a few thousand people show up, and you just don't know based on how popular they are. But it is definitely changing, and it's unfortunate that a lot of the music talent isn't touring like they used to. But what we love is no matter who's in town, if they're performing at US Bank Stadium or a Target Center or a Grand Casino Arena, like they a lot of times will come to the mall. They like to come incognito and just be a shopper and just have fun, but sometimes they'll do pop-up events. Like Ed Sheeran, about a year ago, he was in town for concerts and he was known to pop up in different venues. And literally we got the call about 3 days before he was going to be in town from his team saying, hey, he wants to come to Lego. He's a huge fan of Lego. Like, would it be okay if he came? And we're like, sure, we can make this happen, because we didn't need to advertise it, because it was just, he wanted to do a little pop-up. But he put on a Lego apron. He went behind the counter and he was checking people out, and he's a huge fan of Legos. He was literally working, and then all of a sudden, took his apron off and pulled out his guitar and just started impromptu playing a couple songs. And of course, a crowd gathered, but it was very manageable. It could have been thousands of people if we would have promoted this, right? But just a few hundred people gathered, and it was like the perfect mix of being able to do surprise and delight with not only the Lego staff, our staff, and those few hundred people that got a chance to see him in person, but the media stories after that were just great, because it was so genuine, and he was just a lovely individual. And it was like, this was so perfect and so fun. And that's what it's all about, these surprise and delight moments that you just never know who's going to be in the mall. But that's a big part of the entertainment is pop-ups now. A lot of the pop-ups, they come not necessarily last minute, but they're quicker, they're smaller, but then they have a big impact because they might have retail attached to it. It could have a selling component, but then there's usually entertainment with it. Like Marshmallow, the EDM DJ, was there about a year ago, and he did a retail pop-up along with performance. I was like sweating because I was like, this is crazy. People were dancing but they had so much fun. It was the first time we ever had like an EDM concert in the Rotunda.
Wow.
But it was so much fun, and I love the energy, and it just reminded me like, we can do this, and there's something for everyone. I mean, the gamut of how we can bring people in and bring them together for entertainment, you can reach every audience, from our Toddler Tuesdays where we have Paw Patrol entertaining the kids to Mellow Death, like in the EDM concert, DJ performance. Like, it's so much fun. And so our team gets creative. We watch social trends. We see who's out there, what's happening, just really keeping an eye on pop culture, talking with our tenants constantly of like who's coming through, are there endorsements that we can bring different groups through. But it's just looking at entertainment through different lenses and just reinventing what that could look like. And entertainment comes in so many different forms, but it's about bringing people together and having fun and bringing smiles and joy to people in ways that they might not be able to do in other venues. And most of the time it's free at the mall. So it's a really great place just to be able to come and be with the community and have a good time.
I love that. So personally, is there an event that stands out as a big win, and is there an event that stands out as a big lose? Like, is there any, and give us a little indication of the behind the scenes. What was one that you thought was just super kind of over the top?
Yes. Well, I don't really coordinate the events anymore. The team does an amazing job with that, so I get a chance to pop in and out here and there. But I would say, it's usually the talent that's up and coming that they want to be able to have that experience of the green room, being able to have special requests, doing some crazy things. And so it's usually the ones that you wouldn't expect because they're fresh, they're new, they're young, but it's also fun for them to live in that moment and enjoy it while it's there. I would say I learned, this was many, many, many years ago. We had the Today Show at Mall of America, and Mariah Carey was the holiday performer with that, and learned that there's that level of diva. It was interesting to manage and navigate, but it was also super cool to have her in the mall. But they literally followed her around with a warm light. She wanted to have this warm light on her for all photography that was getting captured, and it was an interesting experience to truly have a diva in our mix.
I love that.
One of my favorites was meeting Kevin Bacon.
Okay.
I was just always a super fan from Footloose and the days growing up.
Yeah.
He came out with his brother. It was the Bacon Brothers. They had a musical gig that they were coming to the mall for, and meeting him, but it was a little disappointing because he was so small, and I felt like I was towering over him. I'm 5'8", and I was like, I don't feel like I'm that tall, but he was just, sometimes they say they're shorter in person, but that was super fun. There's been Zac Efron was one of my favorites. Huge fan of Zac Efron.
Yeah.
But it's fun to have the A-level talent coming to the mall and be able to connect with the stars that seeing the minds of the real people behind what you see on screen or what
Yeah.
you see on stage. So it's really fun to have that opportunity. And, we've coined ourselves the Hollywood of the Midwest because you just don't know who you're going to run into. And celebrity these days is sometimes different than it was back when, we were growing up. But we love it. We love to be able to bring those opportunities to the Midwest, to Minnesota, for people to have fun and to have a little star power.
Let's talk about food and beverage. When the East Side used to have like all the nightclubs and that's changed. And so that's kind of evolved restaurant wise. There's a few that have been there forever but that's changing too. Talk to me about where the Mall of America sits as far as dining and drinking.
Yeah, well, when we first opened, we were about 80% retail, 20% dining and entertainment, or about 70-30, I should say. Now we're closer to that 65-35, so there is a shift that more and more dining and entertainment, because we understand you can't do that online. It's a nice complement to our mix of retail. And it's also gives that sense of experience and increases dwell time. Because obviously if you're shopping, if you're dining, and if you're playing, if you can mix that all together, and even for locals, they're grabbing a room at the hotels and having that staycation. So we love that. But I would say, we're constantly changing. I talked about the change in retail, but we're also looking at that change of dining and entertainment. But when you have some of those tried and true experiences like Twin City Grill, like that's one of my favorites. Northside Level 1, they have great food, amazing service, and they've been there since day one, and it's great. Hooters, they're the number one in their portfolio. They still continue to thrive on the fourth floor, which is great. But we also have new retail and new dining, like Kura Sushi, which is the conveyor belt sushi restaurant. That's been a big hit at the mall. We have a few that I can't talk about yet, but some new dining that's going to be coming. But like Rainforest Cafe, Steve Schussler, he's from this marketplace. He created Rainforest Cafe. We've moved it. It was on the level 1, and now it's on level 3, but it is a destination dining experience, and to be able to have that at Mall of America, the first Rainforest Cafe, and to still be open and operating and very successful is great, because it's such a great destination for families to enjoy. But from an entertainment perspective, the fourth floor has changed. We still have the comedy club up there, which is fantastic. The House of Comedy. Fair on 4 does fantastic. They have the go-karts and the axe throwing, and we have the movie theaters still up there, but we're constantly looking for different opportunities. But when I first got there, it was the days of, we had the Gatlinburg space, we had the All-American Sports
What was
Bar.
the slushy one?
That was Fat Tuesdays.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Fat Tuesdays, yes, fun for Mardi Gras, knuckleheads, gators, little ditties, it was so much fun. But with all things change, and new things are to come. So more we have some fun things in the works for the fourth floor.
Ooh, exciting. Let's talk a little technical real estate. Typically a tenant will sign a longer term lease, and I think the consumer is much more short. They have a short attention span. How do you marry the need to provide financial stability with longer term leases for the business of running a shopping center, with the reality that the consumer may not keep that business in business unless they're really good at continuing to reinvent themselves? So how do you structure deals?
It is a mix of art and science.
Okay.
Really taking a look at the trajectory of the brand, where they have been, where they're going, how they're expanding, what's new in this marketplace. We love first to market retail. And then once they're successful at Mall of America, they oftentimes duplicate themselves in the marketplace. They feel like they can support multiple locations, but then just pushes us to find new brands. But you'd be surprised at the versatility that we have from a leasing perspective. Okay. Being Mall of America, people expect, they're all 10-year leases. Well, and when we first opened, a lot of them were. So we didn't have a lot of flexibility in those first 10 years until we started really getting the chance to stagger some of the leases, so we had more flexibility to move tenants around. So we have a long-term leasing strategy with our traditional leases, but we also have specialty leasing. And that allows us to have tenants that might only want a year. They might only want a season. They might just want a month. And that allows us flexibility to find different spaces to put them in. But then there's also, they need to have the flexibility if we would have a longer term lease that would be looking for the space. So it is a puzzle that we're constantly moving tenants around. We also find, creating districts and finding co-tenancy that makes sense so it's convenient for shoppers to navigate. You look at our west side, west and south, kind of that corner on level 1, there's a lot of athleisure, and that's done very purposefully. You have everything from Viore to Athleta, now Aloe that just recently opened, and Lululemon, all within 100 yards of each other. But it makes it very convenient for shoppers to get a chance to be exposed to multiple brands and the convenience of shopping the competition. And it also, that healthy competition is great for those brands as well to constantly level up what they're delivering from a guest experience. But you'll see that those pockets throughout the mall, we were finding like retailers. I mean, we used to have Apple and Microsoft across from each other on the south side, which was so fun to watch them compete and watch consumers go back and forth. But that's the product and the excitement about the competitive nature of retail and the constant change. But it's just, it's always looking at, what's next. And you talk about, consumers maybe getting tired or wanting, that's that snack bite of information. Social media has programmed us to want things quick and to change things frequently. So it's just making sure that we have that mix of short-term and long-term, and we're moving things around and keeping things fresh. So even if we have a long-term deal, we might be moving a tenant from one place to the other just to find the right co-tenancy, to find better success. But there's a really good balance and a good mix of what we have versus what leasing used to be 20, 30 years ago of the traditional model. And that's what's great also with a family ownership group. We get a lot of flexibility. We can move quickly. We don't have a lot of red tape to make decisions. And that's when you talked about, like, even though I don't lead the leasing team, I have the business development hat that I wear, and being able to bring brands to the table that might not typically be somebody that we would pitch, because there's a strong balance of the brands that come to us versus who we're pitching. So we're constantly out there looking at different brands, asking questions, bringing different brand alliances together, and creating new deliverables for our property that keep it really exciting for the guests.
I'd love to have an ounce of the strategy knowledge that you have. It's really impressive to hear you talk about that. Just leave us with what's next. What is something that you can tell us about that is kind of exciting?
Well, this holiday season, we have a lot of new retail opening. I think we still have about 15 to open yet this year. And it's a really good mix of retail, dining, and entertainment. So definitely come to Mall of America to check things out this holiday season. But we also are working on our water park, so we also need to keep ourselves growing. Development is really important to us. We have property to the north and to the east that we will continue to develop. This one's taken a little longer than planned because we were going to break ground in 2020, and we know what happened then, and then rebooting it a couple years ago when interest rates skyrocketed. So it's that balance of trying to find the right timing, the right partners, and we are like one hurdle away from getting that moving forward. So our fingers are crossed for breaking ground in spring of 2026. And it's a 3-year build. So getting everybody ready for that. And that's actually going to trigger a lot of other developments, which we are working on. And all the stars are starting to align. And I'm very excited about that. That's something that I'm very passionate about, is continually to expand the excitement and the success that we've had with the current footprint because we were 4.2 million square feet, 5.5 once we added Radisson Blu, JW, the office tower, additional retail on the north side, but just to continue to build. And it's the Disney model, right? They continually add elements to their attractions, their lands, and it keeps things exciting and fresh and new for families to come back to Florida time and time again to experience Disney World, right? So we are the Disney World of the Midwest. We continually want to grow and add new elements, different mixed uses to complement what we already have today, to make it exciting for people from around the world to come to Minnesota.
Well, Jill, job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and love having you at the mall, and all your listeners and viewers. We would love to have them visit us this holiday season.
Thanks so much.